And today, we're going to answer frequently asked questions about education.
Okay, well, let's see. Right. Does education impact health?
I'm going to take that, and then you guys can fill in. I think there's two things. One is I would flip the question: does health impact education? And the reason is that for kids to show up to school, etc., they have to be healthy. We find that in our city that we were founded in, Detroit, the attendance rates are some of the lowest anywhere, and that is due to kids having asthma, chronic illnesses, even dental health. And so it absolutely affects things. And I think that there's more discussion that really needs to be had about this. Education is not just sitting somebody in the chair and saying you will learn. You have to be a whole being. What do you guys think?
I think health, good education is all just a symptom of poverty. I think like when you have money and so the things you take care of it. When you're sick, you go to the hospital. When you need to be educated, you need to be fed. And I think when addressing issues with poverty, those are the things that we keep seeing. It's always, do we educate this child, or do we feed them, or do we treat them? We need to fix poverty to fix all these issues.
Does education impact health? My immediate answer is yes. From my perspective, I think that health, like understanding health and well-being, is a form of education. And it could be health is a wide spectrum. Education is health and health is education.
And you can fix so many
I love that. Okay.
Yes, let's see. What is the biggest barrier to getting an education in your community? I think I'll take that. I think if I was to paint a picture of what a typical classroom in rural Kenya looks like, it's just a brick wall and no colors, a blackboard, one textbook, and a teacher comes and writes the notes on on the blackboard. The students copy it on the exercise book, memorize it, and then pass a test. And that is the entire education. There's no practicals, there's no color, there's no creativity. And I think it really just comes down still to poverty. It's like poverty is so dehumanizing. There's just so much like difference in terms of like whether you have it or you don't have it, the kind of education you get, the kind of healthcare you get, the kind of networks you get, the kind of resources and opportunities you get because of that. And I think for our communities, one of the biggest barriers that we have is that our education is still very brute force memorization. That's really not because our teachers are any less, it's just because we don't have the resources.
Yeah. I'm going to say, so we live in two very different parts of the world, and where I'm from is Detroit, and we have some educational outcomes that are just totally unacceptable. Less than 14% of kids are reading by third grade, and that's really what you need to be able to continue your education, because you're reading to learn after that. I would say it's a system for us. We have what we consider a system of hope, that everybody has a right to an education, but we're not delivering on that. You can go to schools and not get what you need. And I think we have to take a good hard look at ourselves and then in the world, because this is the promise of vibrant communities and vibrant economies, and we're messing it up at the dream part, I think, a little bit.
I'd just like to just add and ditto and agree. I definitely believe wholeheartedly. I think it's safe to say, even on an international level, that one of the barriers to education, as Nelly said, is poverty, is lack of resources. And from my perspective, working with college-bound young adults, many of whom are what we call first-generation college students, there's also a lack of understanding and education around how college and the university, how that all works. And there's so many barriers. For example, the average college or university in the United States, maybe separate from a community college, is anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year for tuition alone. That doesn't include room and board and other hidden fees, I'll say. And so when they graduate, a lot of young people are coming out of school with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And then it's like, oh, I've got to get a job to pay off the debt. But the debt almost becomes residual and you never really pay it off because there are these interests, or interest fees that you're basically paying the rest of your life. So it almost seems like a never-ending cycle where you started in poverty and you're trying to liberate yourself, but you almost find yourself getting deeper into poverty.
Let me take the next question. Go ahead. What do we have here? All right, let's see here. Okay. What is the most common misconceptions about education? So to me, one of the common things that we need to get to is that education should be for everybody in an accessible way.
Yes.
Wherever you are, it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think for me also, there's been a lot of work that's been done that is the world has changed. We have changed. Education in our country, right, it's probably the same for you, is still based on practices that were done a long time ago, when we are now an internet-friendly world. We have individual learning styles, and so we're teaching to the common denominator, and nobody is quite getting what they need. I think these are all things that are fixable, right? I think the other thing for me about a common misconception of education is especially post-COVID, is we all need more than what can be provided in a school itself. There just isn't enough in that in order to create great learning environments.
I think that one of the misconceptions about education is that it only happens in a classroom. It's a combination of lived experiences, right? And I think sometimes we forget that every kind of different experience that we have, whether it's, with art or, whether it's maybe you grew up on a farm and you're familiar with agriculture, or whatever the field is, acting, writing, right? Like there are so many different ways that you can be educated or educate yourself.
So let's make education a right, not a privilege. And I think what we're all doing with our work is making it something that is accessible for everybody. And because education is really the gateway out of poverty, I think.